So first, the automotive sector. At the turn of the century, cars run by electric, batteries, and the internal combustion engine were about equal on the roadways. Okay, there's a bit of a competition going on. The problem with the internal combustion engine at the time, it was noisy, it was loud, it stank, the emissions coming off of that. But you could get outside the city and you could travel great distances. Right? It really made a big difference to society and how things evolved. The electric car, on the other hand, was quiet, started easily, right? And it was really a great vehicle. But the problem is the batteries and the technology wasn't quite advanced enough, and you couldn't go very far. You really confined to the city limits. But then a gentleman by the name of Charles Kettering invented the electric starter and put that on the internal combustion engine. Now you can imagine at the turn of the century on an internal combustion engine without the electric starter, you had a hand crank that you had to turn over, right? Now imagine, turn of the century, beautiful women, white dresses, parasols. They're not going to be doing this on a car. So the market was competitive. You had electric, you had internal combustion. As soon as you put the electric starter on the car, everybody has one run by gasoline. And then you had other things, for example, Henry Ford making cars widely available, Texas crude oil made gas affordable, many other factors that really turned that marketplace. But now, because it's a product that turns over every 5 to 10 years, the automotive sector is actually making great strides in the next generation automobiles. You have lithium-ion batteries, you have the idea of plug-in electric cars, and now they're starting to become mainstream. Chevy Volt's coming out with their new battery pack. We have Toyota's new little sports car coming out, going 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. You know, it's becoming a mainstream product. And you look at the fact that students in universities and colleges taking design courses are now incorporating elements of green. They're actually creating products and cars and transportation devices that do have that green component in it. Now, how do we transfer that over to buildings? Not an easy thing with the lifespan. But let's take a look at transformations that we've seen in our lifetime. Now, let's look at buildings. For example, how long ago was it that every building was put together with a single pane glass? And now we're doing double pane glass, low E argon, triple pane, etc. Okay? Back to the automotive sector. How many people in the audience remember the carburetor? It was everywhere. Right? Come on, hands up. Everybody remembers that. You remember the hand crank, Peter? Good. And then at the time, though, when the fuel injection system came in, the mechanics were all in a big uproar because there's no way we're going to put computers in our bays and start looking after cars. That's impossible. And then technology met legislation, marketplace changed. Right? This is a good one to me, technology transformation. When I was growing up, my father was the head of 20th Century Fox Film in Canada. And I remember that was when video first came out onto tape. And I was running up and down the aisles of his storage room with Beta on one side and VHS on the other, and just thinking that was great, right? So now we're all of a sudden shifted to digital. And I love this picture here of the grandfather sitting with his granddaughter looking completely bewildered as to what she's doing on the internet. You know? But the interesting thing is that when we have a passion or an interest for something, we find a way to change, and change quickly to adapt it to what we need, to meet our needs, right? Medical transformations. We've been able to eradicate smallpox, almost, polio, almost, and we're able to look at the most microbial DNA in our body. We're mapping the human genome, right? It's amazing the way we've been able to impact, especially with the growth in populations and a lot of the problems happening around the world with poverty and such. And we've been able to do quite a bit of work in this field. So the question now about climate change is, do we have the same kind of global capacity to mobilize? The environmental opportunity, social response, economic drive to do this. Some examples. World War II, probably one of the greatest examples of our ability to respond to global adversity. The problem is World War II took place over a generation ago, and young people don't quite relate to the impact and the effect it had and the demand it had in so many people's lives. Really, is it a viable reference anymore? And you look at the fact that in World War II, you had factories completely turning over from creating appliances and cars to making tanks and ammunition and bombs. Right? Men went to war, women went to the factories. We all know this. But is that even enough of an example of the kind of effort that we need to do to make an impact on climate change? More of a positive note, let's look at the Olympics. To me, human passion is a very important thing. It's what we are, it's our nature, it's what drives us. And the Olympics is a perfect example of how people come together for the purpose of competition, human passion, and striving to be your best. Now you look at the Beijing Olympics, and you had three things that really stuck out leading up to those Olympics. You had the water cube, the bird's nest, and the pollution. Buildings, atmosphere. Okay, so these are things that we can use in messaging to try and change people's mindsets, creating some kind of a common language. The concern is we're still working in these silos. Silos that could be based on the triple bottom line, economic, environmental, social. It could be finer than that. It could be things like professionals in the building sector. It could be lawyers. It could be doctors, dentists. You know, I'm talking to you as a group who understands the building sector. I should be having the same kind of talk to a lawyers' convention. Not that I'd want to, right? But we should be able to talk across these sectors and communicate and find a way to find that common language so that we can move together quickly.